Well, I really was looking forward to a debate. Chris Fitzsimons from NC Policy Watch wrote a piece on guns being in more places, and it was quite an amazing piece. He, unfortunately, for whatever reason, initially said yes, but we haven't been able to connect with him today. Paul Valone of Grassroots NC, though, he's kind enough to be here. He was ready to go. And, Paul, thank you for that, and welcome to the show.
Thank you, Bill. And I actually also lament not getting to debate Mr. Fitzsimon.
Yeah, I think it would have been very educational. It was an amazing piece he wrote, and I guess it's just going to be you and I, and we'll use his piece as kind of a basis for our discussion. But it seems he starts out this way because, of course, there's a new law and expanded the Castle Doctrine and allows concealed carry permit holders to take guns into state parks. And he says this. He says, it's probably not a good idea to argue with a stranger over a parking space at a state park or confront a reckless cyclist on your local greenway. They might have a loaded handgun hidden in their belt. How does that make you feel, Paul, when you hear somebody say that?
Well, just about every time any state's ever passed or expanded a concealed handgun law, the fearmongers have come out of the woodwork to try and claim there are going to be shootings in traffic lights or, in this case, in state and municipal parks. Unfortunately or fortunately, they've always been wrong. So we expect to see this expansion of concealed carry to be every bit as successful as what we've done for the last 16 years. Because the fact is, concealed handgun permit holders have spent 16 years proving themselves sane, sober, and law-abiding. The rate of permit revocations, we've had 395,000 permits approved in North Carolina, and the rate of permit revocations for any reason is less than 0.3%.
You're kidding. That's incredible.
People are overwhelmingly responsible.
That's incredible. You know, I was digging stats up for this. I was hoping for a debate as well, these stats. But when you begin to take a look, and this is the thing that stuns me, and I know you probably get so frustrated with this, is that the more restrictive the gun laws are, the more the murder rate goes up, crime goes up. I mean, it's certainly the only people that's deterring are law-abiding citizens. In fact, there was this stat, and it was almost 1 million times a year. You probably know this, Paul. 1 million times a year, someone defends themselves or their family from a crime by using a gun. Now,
in most cases, the gun doesn't even have to be fired.
No, it's a. So, what is a Chris Fitzsimon or any liberal? What are they saying to those 1 million people?
I don't know what they're saying, but I do know this. Since we've passed concealed carry, I don't know if most people are not aware of this. According to the 2010 Uniform Crime Reports, overall violent crime in the state has dropped by 43.5%. The rate of murder in the state has dropped by 47%. Robbery dropped by 35%. Aggravated assault by 43%. Essentially, concealed handgun laws deter violent crime. Interestingly, the one place they haven't seemed to drop is in state and municipal parks. In state parks, they don't have a consistent crime reporting data, but we estimate that there has been a 36% increase in total crime in state parks, and a reduction in violent crime only on the order of about a third of what the rest of the state enjoys.
Wow.
Municipal parks are worse. They don't keep separate crime data, but we compiled scores of accounts of robberies, murders, kidnappings, rapes, all in municipal parks.
Paul, do you mind if we take some calls? Some will support, some may not support, but it'd be interesting to see what the folks have to say about this. 860-WPTF, 860-9783. 800-662-7979. Paul, let's go to John first. John, welcome to the show.
Thank you, sir. Yes, I love it when you pass a law giving people the right to keep as well as to bear their weapons, because all of the naysayers out there talk about all the ugly things that are going to happen that never do. But you have to remember, most of your thieves are cowards. They don't want to confront anyone that's armed. Robbers are just that. They're in your face. But they also are cowards. They don't want to confront anyone that's armed. So if they have the thought that someone would be actually packing too, they back off. Those that say that if you disarm the public, they're just simply creating more sheep for the wolves to prey on. That's what they're really espousing. They just don't want to let you know that.
And a corollary of that is that it's the supposedly gun-free zones that really aren't gun-free that actually draw violent predators to these areas, be they campuses, be they shopping malls, be they parks, okay, whatever it happens to be.
Yeah, I would agree with that. It seems to be that's where our mass killings take place. We make it a lot easier for them. Dennis, what do you think? Welcome to the show.
Hey, Bill. Thanks for taking my call.
You bet.
Well, I had to spend some time through a business down in Montgomery, Alabama about 3 years ago. I had to work very closely with a couple of the people in the sheriff's department down there. Great folks. But while I had to sit every day and wait for my appointments, I watched people come in and out applying for gun permits, and it looked like the state fair. I have never seen so many people show up in a 60-minute time period. I'm talking about 100 an hour. People coming in applying for gun permits, legally applying for gun permits. And this is Montgomery, Alabama, and you could take the Wake County Sheriff's Department and chunk it into the bathroom of the Montgomery, Alabama Sheriff's Department. This thing is like 4 blocks long, an unbelievable amount of people, an unbelievable amount of work that gets done. And I talked to a couple of folks down there, interview style, and they said that the gun laws, the people that protest the gun laws are basically trying to cover up the actual amount of crime that goes on. And the gun laws seem to trample on that. They don't want you to know just how many people are out there that are willing or actively committing crimes, because that's what comes out when you do the gun law protest. People start to figure out how many crimes are actually going on, statistics, because they're trying as hard as they can to show a drop in crime, whether it's for political reasons or for any other reason, federal or state or local. They want to show that crimes have dropped. But the reality is it's how the West was won, not to use too old of a tack, and it won't change. Someone who wants to rob you is different from someone who wants to kill you. Someone who wants to rob you wants to take what you've got, the easiest they can get, just like your guest said, and run on. They don't want to run into any problem. They don't want to run into someone who's armed or someone that might shoot them. If you take places where gun laws have been enacted and then take a cookie cutter and stamp them out, Detroit, D.C., Chicago, you put them all together, you've got a crime zone that compares to Somalia, Rwanda, and Haiti all in one.
Dennis, let me jump in here, and I think Paul probably would concur. Would you, Paul?
Oh, absolutely. But the one thing that does tend to reduce violent crime are concealed handgun laws. John Lott and William Landis did the original study, which has been replicated numerous times, in which they determined that states which adopt concealed handgun laws experience drops in murder, rape, and aggravated assault, and that is precisely what has happened in the 16 years since North Carolina adopted concealed carry.
Would you explain for the folks? I have a concealed carry. Explain to those who wouldn't even think about carrying a gun. They have this unhealthy fear of guns, but what concealed carry means, the courses you have to go through, the responsibility of the gun owner. I just get the sense sometimes, like Chris Fitzsimons thinks anybody who has a gun only has it for one purpose, and that's to kill another person, which of course isn't true.
Yes, I think you'll find that the cross-section of concealed handgun permit holders are, by and large, matter of fact, they are overwhelmingly responsible, people and positions of responsibility. They have to essentially go through a training course which involves the actual firing of handgun, instruction in the laws governing the use of deadly force, instruction in the laws governing the concealed handgun permit. They have to demonstrate live fire proficiency with a firearm. Then they take that certificate to the sheriff's department, and they undergo a background check by the FBI, including fingerprints. The sheriff now, as an enhancement to this under House Bill 650, the issuing period is shortened to 45 days, but they have to be certified free of substance abuse, free of things like DUIs, obviously felonies, violent misdemeanors. This is not just an average cross-section of people. These are the responsible people of society.
So let me ask you then, Paul, somebody like that probably would obey a gun law. And if it, for instance, in a state park, if you couldn't bring a gun, they probably wouldn't bring a gun. But that doesn't mean there aren't guns there.
Yeah, that's exactly right. And as a matter of fact, that's why we've determined that parks crimes, as I say, we've got scores of news accounts of parks crimes, murders, rapes, aggravated assaults, everything. And precisely because it's the violent predators who don't pay attention to the signs.
You know, it was a Justice Department report, and I forget what year it was, but something around 42% of us will experience some kind of violent crime, rape, robbery, assault of some sort. That's an amazing statistic, and it'd be interesting to find out how many people might be listening today who might reconsider their position on guns. One last question for you, Paul. How do you feel about that North Carolina will now honor concealed weapon permit holders from any other state?
Well, that's a fine enhancement. As a matter of fact, we right now have reciprocal agreements with 37 states because we passed a clean concealed handgun reciprocity law the first time. This essentially captures a few other states who will be able to carry concealed here, which typically have very stringent issuing requirements, places like New York, New Jersey, California, okay, where it's virtually, it's difficult, if not impossible, to even get a concealed handgun permit. So we've already captured most of the states that have issuing requirements similar to our own.
Well, Paul, what a pleasure to talk with you. I hope we can arrange something in the future with Chris Fitzsimons. This is a favorite issue of mine.
To that.
I do too. Paul, thank you so much for your time. I appreciate it.
Thank you, Bill.
Thank you, sir. Well, have you ever thought about buying a gun? Are you one of those individuals scared to death of a gun? When you start hearing the statistics, does it make sense to you? 860-WPTF, 860-9783, 800